Okay, so what if the most overlooked, undeniable proof of Jesus Christ's deity isn't really what most people think?
Hmm.
Like, imagine a public cosmic event, something spanning decades, that didn't just change world history, but was the exact vindication Jesus promised his enemies they'd personally.
Cosmic happenings, mainly between 62 and 136 CE.
And we want to uncover why maybe contemporary scholarship, for all its sophistication, might have missed the New Testament's own way of presenting evidence, its own framework.
Exactly. So usually the common Christian understanding, especially when talking to unbelievers, presents the bodily resurrection of Jesus as the primary proof, right?
Yeah.
The main public evidence for his deity.
Right, that's the standard approach.
But what if?
Hmm.
What if we have our evidential categories completely backwards, at least for the public proof part?
Okay, explain that. What's an example?
Well, there's this fascinating dialogue that's mentioned in the research between Jeff Morgan, who's a Jewish Christian, and William Lane Craig, a well-known Christian philosopher.
Hmm.
Craig argued that Jesus' radical claims, Messiah, Son of God, and especially that Son of Man title from Daniel 7,
Mm-hmm.
were just fundamentally blasphemous to the Jewish leaders
Hmm.
because they implied divine prerogatives, things only God could do or be.
Okay.
And for Craig, the ultimate proof, the vindication of those claims was the resurrection.
But here's the problem, isn't it? If the resurrection was this undeniable public proof, why did the authorities basically just get their phones out, call the temple treasurer, and say, we need some hush money ASAP?
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially the picture Matthew 28 gives us, right? Verses
Right.
11 to 15. They treated it like a public relations problem to be managed, not an undeniable fact. They just paid the guards to lie.
They denied it. Solved, they thought.
Exactly. It makes you wonder how easily an event could be dismissed if it wasn't, undeniably public in a different way.
So let's go back. Backtrack to Jesus' trial before Caiaphas, that crucial moment.
Right.
Jesus says, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven. And Caiaphas, he doesn't just disagree.
No, he tears his clothes, screams blasphemy. It's a visceral reaction.
So the question is, what exactly did Caiaphas think Jesus was promising him? Would he react like that to just a promise of some postmortem appearances? Like you said, his reaction to the resurrection reports was cool, calculated, pragmatic.
It was damage control. This was different. And Jeff Morgan in the material we looked at makes this really compelling connection.
Yeah.
Jesus saying coming on the clouds of heaven. That wasn't just poetic language.
Yeah, that echoed something specific.
Yes, Psalm 104, verse 3. It describes God as the one who makes the clouds his chariot.
Ah, okay. So Jesus is directly applying that divine imagery to himself, claiming those divine prerogatives.
That's the argument. And here's the kicker. Jesus wasn't seen on any clouds 3 days after the crucifixion. The resurrection appearances, they were mostly private.
Right, Mary Magdalene, the disciples behind locked doors, the guys on the road to Emmaus.
Exactly. Jesus didn't say, you'll hear reports about me appearing. He said, you will see this. He promised his judges, personally, unmistakably, that they would witness his cosmic vindication.
That's what triggered the blasphemy charge. Not the idea of resurrection itself, maybe,
Yeah.
but this specific, visible, cosmic claim.
That seems to be the core of it, yeah. This claim and this alone.
Okay, so if that's the context, how does it change how we read other key texts, the ones usually cited for Jesus' deity?
Well, the research suggests that the very passages often use Daniel 7, Matthew 26, parts of Revelation like chapter 1, chapter 16. They're absolutely screaming about something completely different than quiet resurrection appearances.
Different how?
They're not describing peaceful garden encounters. They're talking about cosmic upheaval, kingdoms dissolving, mass visions visible to whole populations.
Symbolic beasts rising from the sea.
The complete collapse of existing political and religious systems. It's huge, dramatic stuff.
It's like we're taking Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries and trying to use it as background music for a quiet tea party. The scale is just wrong.
That's a great analogy. The intensity levels just don't match. Look at Daniel 7 again. It's not subtle.
No.
Kingdoms being crushed, thrones set up, books opened, this massive cosmic judgment scene where 10,000 times 10,000, that's 100 million, stand before the Ancient of Days.
That's apocalyptic chaos. A
Yeah.
huge, staggering cosmic scale.
Absolutely. And here's another fascinating connection the research highlights. That indescribable fourth beast in Daniel 7.
Yeah, the terrifying one. Dreadful, terrible iron teeth.
That same entity, the argument goes, is the beast rising from the sea in Revelation 13.
How do we know that? What's the link?
The time frame. Both of them persecute the saints for the exact same duration. Daniel 7.25 says, a time and times and the dividing of time.
Which is generally understood as 3.5 years.
Right. And Revelation 13.5 says the beast has authority for 40 and 2 months.
Which is also 3.5 years.
Exactly. And you see that same period in Revelation 11.2 and 12.13. These passages seem to describe the church surviving through this period of intense tribulation.
Okay, so if it's the same entity and the timing matches, what was this beast? If it wasn't Rome, as people often assume.
The material we're exploring argues very strongly it was the murderous pseudo-messianic zealotry that just exploded during the Jewish War of 67-70 CE.
So not an empire, but an ideology, a movement.
A volatile, incredibly dangerous holy war movement, yeah. Claiming divine sanction but committing acts of violence that apparently shocked even the hardened Roman soldiers. Josephus documents this stuff.
Wow. Okay, let's circle back to the scale argument then. Daniel sees 100 million in this cosmic courtroom.
Right.
10,000 times 10,000.
Compare that to the resurrection appearances, maybe 500 witnesses total.
Roughly, yeah, according to Paul.
And the ascension, just the 11 disciples.
The sheer difference in scale, it's enormous. That alone should make us pause and ask, which events are these prophecies really describing?
It's a massive disparity, isn't it? It really forces the question.
And it seems this whole theme, this divine vindication through judgment, it isn't just in Daniel or Revelation. It's like a thread woven right through the New Testament.
Absolutely. It's not isolated. The research suggests it starts right at the beginning with John the Baptist.
Matthew 3.
Yeah, Matthew 3.7 to 12. John gives this stark warning, doesn't he, about the wrath to come. He says, the axe is already laid to the root of the trees.
Burning the chaff with unquenchable fire.
It's announcing this imminent cosmic judgment, specifically falling on that generation. And this pattern just builds and builds throughout Jesus' ministry. Think about the examples in Matthew alone.
Right, like in Matthew 8, children of the kingdom shall be cast out.
Or Matthew 10, judging the cities. With that stunning promise in verse 23 that the disciples wouldn't even finish going through Israel's cities before the Son of Man comes.
Implying it was near. Then Matthew 11, the woe to the cities that rejected him, saying it'd be more tolerable for Sodom.
And Matthew 12, verses 36 to 45, where he says, the men of Nineveh shall rise up in judgment with this generation. It's always tied to that specific generation.
Yeah, and then the really crucial one, Matthew 16.27, 28. The Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father, and then he says,
there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. It couldn't be much clearer about the timing, could it?
Not really. And it continues, Matthew 21, the vineyard parable, the kingdom of God shall be taken from you.
Matthew 23, the climax of woes against the scribes and Pharisees, verses 29-39, saying all the accumulated blood guilt would come upon
this generation, again.
And then, of course, Matthew 24, the detailed prophecy about the temple's destruction and being seen in the clouds during Jerusalem's siege.
It's a constant drumbeat. Even John's gospel, which is often seen as less focused on this kind of judgment.
It confirms it too. John 1.51, you shall see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. The research connects this to those aerial phenomena Josephus and others apparently witnessed before and during the war.
Interesting.
And John 5, verses 25-29, the hour is coming and now is when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of God, pointing towards a cosmic judgment involving the resurrected dead.
John 12.31, now is the judgment of this world. Pretty direct.
And that enigmatic exchange in John 21, verses 20-23, about John may be remaining till I come. It seems clear in this context that come refers to this cosmic judicial coming, not just the resurrection or ascension.
This brings up a really critical point, something that makes you stop and think. If the resurrection appearances, those moments of joy after sorrow, were the fulfillment of Jesus' promise in John 16 about sorrow turning to joy.
The promise about the woman in travail, yeah.
Then why, decades later, is Paul still talking about intensifying birth pains, groaning, even despairing of life itself?
Right. And why, even later in Revelation, are the martyred saints under the altar still crying out, how long, O Lord? How long until you judge and avenge our blood?
The timeline seems off if the resurrection was the complete fulfillment of that joy after travail promise.
The timeline presented in the research is actually quite decisive on this. Let's trace it.
Okay.
John 16.1622, that's around the 30 CE. Jesus promises sorrow turns to joy, like a woman in travail.
Got it.
Then, maybe 20 years later, in the 50 CE, Paul writes Romans 8.22. He confirms, the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. Still happening.
Still in labor.
Still in labor. And in 2 Corinthians, also 50 CE, Paul describes ongoing agony, intensifying, groaning, being burdened, even having despaired even of life.
Doesn't sound like the ultimate joy has fully arrived yet.
Not at all. Then jump to the 60 CE, Revelation 6.9-11. John sees those souls under the altar, slain for their faith, crying out, "How long dost thou not judge and avenge our blood?" They're still waiting.
Still waiting for that vindication.
Paul even uses the metaphor for his own ministry in Galatians 4.19, 50 CE, being in the pain of childbirth for them. And then Revelation 12, 60 CE, shows the woman often identified with the faithful community, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. This looks like the actual cosmic birth of the elect, still happening or about to happen.
So it's like a unified cosmic chorus, isn't it? Both the living saints like Paul and the dead saints under the altar are waiting for the same thing.
Exactly. The same cosmic vindication. The research concludes the true birth, the one bringing permanent, unshakable joy, was still future from Paul's perspective. It was tied to this larger cosmic vindication event.
Okay, so let's go back to Daniel 7, which Jesus explicitly references in Matthew 26 at his trial. He invokes this vision of, what was it, 100 million people?
10,000 times 10,000, yeah. Standing before the Ancient of Days, thrones set up, books open, kingdoms crushed, dominion given to the saints over all nations. It's immense.
We contrast that again with the, 500 witnesses of the resurrection appearances, the 11 disciples at the ascension.
The scale difference is just staggering. You crunch the numbers, it's like Daniel's vision involves 200,000 times more people than the resurrection appearances, and maybe 9 million times more than the ascension.
So how do the sources solve this riddle? Where do 100 million people come from? Is it purely symbolic?
Well, the interpretation offered is that this cosmic court isn't just the people alive at that moment. It includes multiple generations brought together for judgment.
Ah, okay. Like who?
Remember, Jesus himself said, "The men of Nineveh shall rise up in the judgment with this generation." Matthew 12.41.
Right, he brings past generations into the judgment of the current one.
And Peter tells us Christ preached unto the spirits in prison, which sometimes were disobedient when once the long-suffering of God waited in the days of Noah. 1 Peter 3.19-20. So Noah's generation's involved too.
So suddenly that 100 million figure, it starts to seem completely reasonable, doesn't it?
It does, if you include the 1.1 million estimated to have died just in the Jewish war. Josephus gives figures like that, plus the entire population of ancient Nineveh, Noah's generation, the Queen of Sheba's generation, Jesus also mentioned.
And potentially multiple other civilizations called as witnesses in this cosmic courtroom drama.
Exactly. It becomes a picture of potentially all of history bearing witness to the vindication of the Messiah they rejected, specifically against the generation that crucified him.
So when Jesus declared to Caiaphas, "You will see the Son of Man," this wasn't just a standalone threat. It was, as the research suggests, the absolute climax of a whole prophetic campaign.
A campaign that had been building ever since John the Baptist's first warnings by the Jordan River.
And this mystery of iniquity Paul talks about, it wasn't some vague future evil.
According to this interpretation, no. It was very specific. The volatile, barbarous, holy war zealot movement, the fourth philosophy Josephus describes, claiming God's blessing while committing atrocities, it was messianism gone murderously wrong.
And this is what Jesus destroyed at his Perugia, his coming.
Exactly. Yeah. Not just passively letting Rome do the work, but actively intervening in human history to dismantle it.
So the righteous judgment of God unleashed upon Judea, it happened precisely within that predicted calendrical framework. Daniel 7.25, Daniel 9.27.
That's the argument. The timing fits the 3.5-year tribulation period leading up to 70 CE, and the result, within about 37 years of Jesus' declaration to Caiaphas.
The entire religious and political system that rejected him just ceased to exist?
Gone. Temple destroyed, Jerusalem razed, priesthood finished, the sacrificial system stopped forever. The whole covenant world that had shouted, "We have no king but Caesar," found out what divine kingship actually looked like.
But the story doesn't quite end there, does it? There's this shocking historical irony.
Yeah, after 70 CE, you'd think the lesson was learned. But apparently not entirely. Judaism, or at least a significant part of it, seemed to double down.
Between 132 and 136 CE.
Right, you get the Bar Kokhba revolt. He was proclaimed the real Messiah by the highly influential Rabbi Akiva, hailed as the star out of Jacob from Numbers.
And Bar Kokhba himself made this, well, astonishingly audacious proclamation, didn't he?
He really did. The sources record him praying something like, "O Master of the universe, there's no need for you to assist us against our enemies, but do not embarrass us either."
Or another version, God, if you choose not to help us, at least don't help our enemies. Basically saying, we can win this without you.
Yeah, implying victory without divine help. Just stay out of it, God.
Wow. The contrast with Jesus is just breathtaking.
Isn't it? Jesus, eternal God incarnate, yet he humbly submits, not as I will, but as you will.
Cries out on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? Shows utter dependence.
And surrenders his spirit into the Father's hands. Total submission.
While Bar Kokhba displays this incredible arrogance.
He was like a complete replay of the same messianic political errors that led to the disaster in 70 CE, but maybe with even more stunning arrogance towards God Almighty.
And the outcome, even worse devastation.
Utter devastation. Jerusalem razed again, renamed Aelia Capitolina by Hadrian, Jews banned from the city, the province essentially extinguished. It was only after this second crushing catastrophe that Judaism finally, definitively abandoned those nationalistic, messianic political hopes and reinvented itself into the rabbinic Judaism we know today.
So let's try to synthesize this. The resurrection, incredibly important, foundational. It ignites the faith of the believers, gives hope, confirmation.
Yes, absolutely crucial for the disciples, for the church.
But this other series of events, this cosmic vindication spanning roughly 62 to 136 CE, that served as the undeniable public proof to the world.
That's the framework. Different evidence for different audiences. Both valid, both part of God's plan.
But it still leaves that question. How could Caiaphas see this vindication if historical records suggest he died around 36 CE, decades before Jerusalem fell?
That's where Revelation 11.18 comes in, according to this interpretation. The time of the dead that they should be judged. The fall of Jerusalem wasn't just a historical event. It was this intersection point of history and eschatology, the study of end times. It was when the time of the dead arrived for judgment.
So the idea is all who had rejected the true Messiah, including Caiaphas, were somehow present, perhaps spiritually, to witness his cosmic vindication at that moment.
That's how the research pieces it together. And it argues this wasn't just symbolic language. Think about those reports from Josephus and Tacitus, pagan historians, not Christians.
The ones about aerial phenomena.
Exactly. Battalions of armies racing across the skies in May 62 CE. Opposing combat formations battling above the Second Temple in January 67 CE.
So in this framework, those weren't just strange weather patterns.
No, they were the mighty angels. Paul told the Thessalonians would accompany the Lord's coming in judgment, the supernatural armies signaling divine intervention.
Which connects back to Revelation 1.7.
Behold, he is coming with clouds, and every eye will see him, even they who pierced him, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn because of him.
That sounds like a collective, simultaneous vision. Unmistakable, visible to entire populations.
And the argument is that this kind of mass witnessing did happen during that 62-136 CE period, fulfilling the promise.
If this interpretation holds so much explanatory power, linking all these texts and events, why has it been so overlooked for so long? It can't just be lack of sincere faith among scholars.
No, absolutely not. The research suggests it's often simply a lack of encounter or familiarity. Many scholars, even brilliant ones, might not have deeply studied the detailed history of the late Second Temple period, that whole chain of insurrections and Jewish wars.
Or the nuances of 1st and 2nd century zealot messianism.
Exactly. There seems to be a kind of systemic, almost systematic blind spot in traditional theological education. The focus is often on systematic theology or more, let's say, traditional eschatological frameworks.
So we miss the specific historical context the New Testament writers were immersed in.
And the result is, well, like that analogy earlier, we read texts screaming about cosmic upheaval, about judgment on that generation, about visible, terrifying events, and we calmly redirect them toward quiet garden encounters, or maybe project them thousands of years into our future.
We've sort of domesticated apocalyptic literature.
In a way, yes. Screened it of its intense public nature, drained it of its cosmic terror, made it maybe more church-friendly through interpretations that downplay God's active, sometimes fierce, intervention in history.
So let's bring it back to the core insight. The anomalies, the historical events, the fall of Jerusalem, the subsequent crushing of Bar Kokhba, these were, in fact, a manifest token of the righteous judgment of God.
Visible to all, undeniable to any witness at the time. requiring no faith to see it happening.
This was the public proof of Christ's deity that the New Testament consistently points toward.
That's the conclusion of the research, not the private resurrection appearances, which, as we saw, could be dismissed with bribe money.
But the cosmic vindication that literally dissolved the very civilization, the very religious system, that had officially condemned him as a liar and a blasphemer.
The resurrection was for the believer's faith and hope. The cosmic judgment was the undeniable sign for the doubting world. Both pieces fitting together perfectly.
And the research we looked at offers even more confirmations, doesn't it? Like that four-stage divine protection timeline.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It argues there were these distinct moments where God essentially said no to any attempt to reverse the judgment.
Okay, run through them quickly. First,
70 CE, the first cosmic no, the temple destruction itself. Remember the Titus refusing the victory wreath, attributing to the Jewish God's wrath.
Okay, second.
132, 136 CE, the second cosmic no. The Bar Kokhba revolt crushed after his audacious prayers. Even Emperor Hadrian reportedly acknowledged a divine hand in Bar Kokhba's death. 362 CE, the third cosmic no. Emperor Julian the Apostate tries to rebuild the temple to explicitly defy Christ's prophecy. The project literally explodes. Reports mention fire, earthquakes, killing the workers. Even unlimited imperial power couldn't undo it.
Wow. And fourth.
692 CE, the permanent seal. Abdallah builds the Dome of the Rock on the Temple Mount. Architecturally, it's like a massive, closed permanently sign, standing for over 1,300 years, visually confirming the judgment.
That's quite a sequence. What about the timing? Jesus saying, no one knows the day or hour.
The interpretation here is about progressive revelation. In 33 CE, when Jesus said that in Matthew 24.36, he genuinely didn't know the precise timing because the Father hadn't revealed it yet.
But later.
By 61 and 62 CE, when Revelation was written, Revelation 1.1 says God gave him the revelation to show his servants. Jesus then revealed it to John.
So that's why the early Christians, like Paul writing to the Thessalonians, got specific timing indicators. You are not in darkness, so that this day should surprise you.
Exactly. And why Revelation constantly uses terms like shortly, quickly, at hand. The time had been revealed by then.
Which also explains the Daniel Revelation timing proof, right?
Precisely. Daniel, around 530 BCE, is told, seal the words until the time of the end. Daniel 12.9.
But John, around 61-62 CE, is commanded the opposite. Do not seal the words of the prophecy of this book, for the time is at hand. Revelation 22.10.
The very act of unsealing proves that the time of the end Daniel foresaw had finally arrived in the first century.
Which leads to this modern eschatological irony.
Yeah, it's quite pointed. Modern prophecy books are teachers who predict specific future dates for Jesus' return.
They ironically prove his deity through their repeated failures.
In this view, yes. Because if Jesus said, no one knows the day or hour about events that were intended to be fulfilled within that first century or so,
then modern predictions must fail because there are no major datable prophetic events left to predict. They already happen.
Period. Every failed modern prediction inadvertently demonstrates that the cosmic vindication occurred exactly as and when the New Testament indicated it would.
And finally, even archaeology seems to back this up.
There's compelling evidence discussed in the research. Josephus describes this dizzying, deep valley near the temple. It doesn't exist today because Hadrian leveled the area when he rebuilt Jerusalem as Aelia Capitolina.
And the Western Wall.
Today, hundreds of thousands gather annually at what they believe is the Western Wall of the Second Temple. But some significant archaeological work suggests they might actually be praying at the retaining wall of Fortress Antonia, the Roman military base that overlooked the temple.
So the actual temple site.
According to some scholars following this line of evidence, it lies about 600 feet away behind the current prayer plaza, likely overgrown and forgotten, a literal fulfillment of Jesus' prophecy that not one stone will be left on another.
So wrapping this up, we've journeyed through a pretty dramatic re-examination of some core scriptural texts, and what we found really does challenge centuries of interpretation.
It does. But this framework, it doesn't diminish the resurrection at all. It honors it, places it in its proper evidential category, foundational for believers.
But it also allows the cosmic judgment texts, the apocalyptic passages, to speak with their own voice, their own intensity.
Yes, it explains the specific timing indicators Jesus gave. It explains why he promised his enemies they would personally witness his vindication. and why the New Testament consistently points toward these huge, public, undeniable demonstrations of divine authority happening in their near future.
The manifest token, that visible sign of God's righteous judgment, it really is there in Scripture, isn't it? Almost screaming to be noticed once you look for it.
The question really becomes, are we ready to let those texts speak with their own intended voice and intensity? Are we willing to recognize that perhaps the ultimate public proof of Christ's deity, the kind powerfully portrayed back in Daniel
It
7,
was never meant to be found only in the reports of the resurrection, vital as they are.
but in world-changing, history-altering events so cosmic and undeniable that they reshape civilization itself?
It's definitely a provocative thought to end on, something for you, the listener, to mull over and maybe explore further.
We certainly hope this deep dive encourages that exploration into these profound connections.